You're okay, ma'am. You're safe now. Can you look at me?
They're still out there.
We'll take care of it. Right now, we just need to get you warm.
Dispatch, victim located. We're heading back to the vehicle.
Easy does it. Lean on me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Creme de la Cringe. How are you, Tristan?
Dude, exhausted. How are you?
I'm good. We have a guest with us tonight, Tom. He's here to talk about something that went down in his family. And yeah. But before we get into that, I cannot believe we warmed up a little bit. I've never seen this happen in December here.
This is so dumb.
I know,
love it.
Yeah, I know. I am too. I'm
I mean,
loving it,
I
but I'm
like it, but it's kind of scary. Like I've never in my life seen it be in the 50s. Like, and I think we're supposed to get close to 60 on Wednesday.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's trippy because does that mean like it's going to get down to like minus 40 in the next month? I mean, what's it doing?
I mean, it's Idaho. You never know.
One of my friends said that he was talking with the Fish and Game officer in Wyoming at the state line. And they do when deers are harvested, they do a test on the deer to determine the amount of fat that's on it. Like when you go through the test station, because they're looking for the chronic wasting, right? So when they do that, and that amount of fat on whatever it is, the liver or whatever it is, or something, whatever organ they take at that station for chronic wasting, but it also determines how hard a winter we're going to have, because the deer will store naturally extra fat to make it through these really tough winters that we have. Sometimes are really bad, like minus 30 for 2 weeks and that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And their tests, even though all of the weather models are saying we were supposed to get hammered this year with a really tough winter, their tests are indicating the opposite. There's very little fat on the deer. And so they're like, it's going to be mild. It's going to be a mild winter, because they say the deer, that's the predictor.
I mean, in a sense, I'm okay with it. Like, I would be happy if it was warmer all winter long. But when you weigh like 100 pounds, it sucks when it's really, really cold. But I do like snow for Christmas.
I do.
If I just have snow for Christmas and New Year's, then I'm good. Okay, well, you're weird.
I know.
Because you gotta have snow for Christmas.
I just don't like winter that lasts 5-6 months long.
Yes. And that's been the weird part of the last few years, is that like all of a sudden these winters are staying out later. And I'm like, well, this is really weird. Granted, I grew up here, and I don't know, in the 90s, man, those were good winters. Cold, but I was a kid, so I didn't care.
Lynn used to tell me about, she walked uphill 3 miles to school each way, and it was 15 feet of snow. But I guess
10 miles both ways with 10
and I'm like,
feet of
okay,
snow.
whatever, Lynn. She goes, no, really, the winters here were really bad. And when you look at historical records, they were really bad. So I'm okay with the global warming aspect when that means we're not 30 below in 8 feet of snow for 7 months. I'm okay with that. So just saying.
I mean, it's Idaho. We get winter, spring, like a little bit of summer, winter. It's just winter and summer. That's it.
There's very little spring and hardly any fall.
Yeah.
This year was a nice fall. So I was loving it. This year so far has been really good. So, okay.
So that means if it's a mild one this year, we're going to get pounded next year.
Maybe. But last year wasn't that bad.
I don't know, Tom. What do you think?
I have no idea. I don't predict
I think it's all going to flip anyways. And like sooner or later, this side of the United States is going to be warmer, and they're going to start getting snow in Texas and Arizona.
I'm okay with that, because I'm never moving back to Texas ever.
I mean, I'd be okay with that.
If you love Texas and you live in Texas, more power to you. I spent 4 years there, and it was not my cup of tea. But I was probably in the wrong area. So it was nothing but wind, sand, heat, and rattlesnakes. And no. And rattlesnakes so big they could go stretch across one whole highway lane. I lived real close to where they do this rattlesnake roundup every year. And we had to have snake chaps on when we did spill response, because as we're going down, like inevitably a tanker rolls into a canyon full of rocks, right? So you're going down through all these rocks to do sampling and figure out what, and you got to have snake chaps on because the rattlers are hitting your legs. You got to walk with your hands up. Yeah. Nope. Not a fan of Texas.
I'm like, that is the only snake that like seriously terrifies me. And it was a couple summers ago. It's before my grandma passed, or that summer my grandma passed in 23. And we went up 2 Mile, Aladdin was hiking, and I saw, of course, saw a pretty rock. I'm like, oh, look at the rock. Walked over, and I kid you not, I levitated. I went up, turned, and ran in the air back. I was like, nope. Well, then it was a den. So when we were walking back out, we had to throw rocks to figure out where they were so that we could stay away from them.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Nope. No. Mm-mm. Okay, well, we had some light banter because we have a very heavy topic tonight. This is a true crime podcast, and I would not listen to this podcast with any children in the room. Yes. Tom has a story to tell that happened to his family that's really, really heavy. And so please, listener beware. Do not listen to this with children present, please. And I will put that in the description as well. So, Tom, why don't you start at the beginning? I know that you have some notes written out.
Oh, I got lots of them.
I know. He's a note.
I'm the organized type.
He's an organized guy. I know Tom very well. So go ahead, Tom.
I'm like, wait, what's your sign, Tom?
Sign? You mean like
your zodiac?
Astrological.
Pisces.
You're Pisces? That's actually interesting.
It must be a rising sign.
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not an astrological kind of person. But yeah, the reason why this isn't for kids is because it's about children, specifically my children. And so that's part of the reason why I'm not using my real name, because I live in a small community, and I don't want this to circle back to my children and that they would then get treated differently in a small community.
And just for our viewers also, that's why Tom is pixelated, so that his identity is a little bit more shielded because of the size of our communities around here. We want to take care of them. So,
yes.
So I guess I'm going to kind of start back a little bit before, a lot of these incidents happen, because a lot of this kind of leads up to information that you'll need, when the true crime actually happened. And so, this kind of all started about 10, 13 years ago. We were just your normal family, 4 kids, loving stay-at-home mom. She cooked, cleaned, took care of the kids. She was a devout Christian. She grew up in the church, no cussing, polite. We had just bought our dream home together, and we were, had some acreage and chickens and stuff like that, and had all those nice little American dream kind of dreams. It was nice. I did not see divorce coming. And so basically what happened is as my mom came to visit one year, my ex packed the car, left with a note saying, "Hope you enjoy time with your mom," and basically disappeared. And so after 2 weeks of calling, she finally answered and said she wanted a divorce, I thought it was just me, but then I started noticing some odd things after she left. So go ahead.
So Tom, do you think that she had met somebody online? Like, was there some kind of
I don't
behind the
think
scenes
so. Only because
going?
after I talked with her parents and things like that, she was spending a lot of time out at a park. And, and I'll get to that part too, because that's where she kind of finds her next husband, which is a major character in this story.
Mm-hmm.
So all in a split second, everything was just like, boom. Life was great. Everything, mom's coming to visit. and bam, life's thrown into shambles.
Right. And
Wow.
so, yeah. So
Crazy.
like, for example, in the divorce, some of the things that I noticed that were odd were things like she didn't want custody of the children. She didn't want a visitation schedule. She just wanted visitation when she asked for it, which is odd.
It is
And-
odd, particularly for
That-
a woman.
As a
I have to
mother,
say.
I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
mom, and
Oh, I
over
know.
my dead body,
Right.
is someone taking my kids.
I
Like,
thought for sure she was going to like rake me over the coals,
Right.
and take me for every single penny that I had. And
Right.
she didn't. She just wanted out, and that's what she wanted. And and there were some other odd things like, I found that she had journals where she had all these revelations and experiences and visitations from characters in the Bible, and whatnot.
This sounds a
so-
little like Daybell,
I don't know.
doesn't it? I mean, just the Revelations part and the angel, all of that. Like, it sounds like Lori Daybell.
Yeah. She even
Kinda.
had all these thousands of dollars worth of, those schleiky farm animals. She had over $1,000 worth of those. And she believed that she had played part in creating them. And they represented the animals that she played part in doing that stuff. It was,
did she have any mental health issues before all this? Any schizophrenia diagnosis or anything?
Nope. No diagnosis.
Wow.
And so the only thing that I could have seen with her was that she might have had some depression, but she didn't want to go see a counselor for it. So, yeah. So then about 6 months after, she left, she basically burned her bridges. She started cussing out her own family members. She was asked to leave her sister's house because she was giving massages and whatnot to her husband, her sister's husband. And she became involved with this bounty hunter that she met at this park that she was spending a lot of time at. And basically, she gets really involved with this guy. And 9 months after she left me, she was pregnant with this man's child. And she gets kicked out of the church and she goes and lives with him. Family didn't like him because they believed, and I tended to believe them because, even when I first spoke to him, he talks about how he knocked her up, and that's not the way you talk about, your loving, significant other.
Right.
And, and then he tells me that his own ex wouldn't let him see his own kids, which is a red flag.
Big red flag right there. Yeah.
And, and of course, my ex's family didn't like him either and whatnot. And so at this juncture, I start to see signs of abandonment in my own children, because the ex only asked to see the kids maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year. And, and so then the negative, kind of behaviors in the children tended to escalate after I remarried, from my kids and from my ex. And I think it was mostly because, I was basically having happiness without her and she didn't like that. She needed to feel, I personally felt she needed to feel like she was justified in leaving me and that I was miserable to justify her leaving me.
Also, Tom, weren't there some behavioral issues with the kids when they came home from visiting?
Oh yeah, I'm getting that.
You're
The
getting
roller
that.
coaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, Tom, how old were the kids when you guys separated, when you got divorced?
So that would have been 2 to 14.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, she left a 2-year-old.
I didn't realize he was so small.
Yeah.
I just remember him talking nonstop all the time.
Yeah. He's now 15. Yeah. Here's my talk.
Yeah.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
adorable.
And so, yeah. And so it was kind of those things. And so like, for example, the visitations basically turned into what I called the roller coaster. You would get the behaviors building up, the eye of the storm during the visitation, and then I'd have to deal with, all of the behaviors and problems and the fallout after they came home. And what I began to notice during it was that the kids, that she was starting to alienate the kids, from me by telling kids stuff that's not appropriate for children. Like, I'm a sex maniac, and you don't say that to the kids.
No.
She said that I was lying on her.
You don't talk about stuff to children,
Like, and I don't know. I have a firm line. I shared custody of my youngest daughter, and it was always, I didn't talk about her dad in a negative way in front of her.
Correct. And that's the way I tried to be.
Do that. But I can understand what you're saying with the visitation, because it was like you only get your child for a certain amount of time, because I shared 50-50 to where it was like half the week I was dealing with the repercussions of him being with him. And then I get her for like one full day, and then the behavior started again when she knew she was going back.
Right.
I mean, and in my situation, unfortunately, we found out dad was using, and there was a lot to that. But I can understand, Tom, what you're going with that. It's hard as a parent.
Yeah, I mean, she told the kids that I cheated her in the divorce. At first, I thought that this was just, kids being kids, but when, because kids do the stuff, they play mom against dad. And that's kind of expected. But when I had two kids sitting at the table telling me that they were told to misbehave to get what they wanted, like, for example, my divorce from my second wife, or to get their way, or to live with mom, and then I had the third child yelling up the stairs, we're not supposed to tell what happens at mom's house. I started to believe it. And so, and the way visitation would work is my second daughter, she would ask for months before my ex would relent and then ask me. And then it would usually start with 2 days before she wanted them. I had to drop everything and get her the kids, which is usually a 3 to 6 hour drive,
right?
For where she was at. And then she, and I had to, and then the changes would happen at least 2 to 3 times over the next 2 to 3 days, as far as what day, what time, what location, this, that, and the other, and then she would only want the kids that wanted to see her. She would blame me for anything that went wrong. And then she would almost inevitably bring the kids back early each visitation. And then, the kids, it was just hard. And, because it would take 2 to 3 months to get back to a routine and heal. And then it would just start up all over again. So, and at the same time, she asked for access to my retirement and basically spent it all, because I had like a 401k style account, and she could access that early. And so she accessed that, took it all, and spent it. And so then, about this time, the negative behaviors from my ex, from my kids, as I felt, I kind of kept the behaviors of my ex, similar to like what you were talking, Trista, away from my children, because I wanted, I knew that I would be viewed as the bad guy, being a man.
Eventually. Yep.
And
yep.
And so, and I didn't want it to backfire, and I felt that it was important for the kids to have some form of a relationship with their mom, even though I knew that they were having, issues with abandonment. And I wanted them, to see a good example, and try to have, a relationship with their mom. But over time, this changed, as I allowed the kids to kind of see because they were becoming older now. My oldest was now, 16, 18 years old. And so I started to allow the older children to actually see the behaviors of their mom, so that they could start to make basically their own decision for what's going on. At one point, and this is where some of the weirdness kind of starts up, so like, for example, at one point, her husband said that he only had a year left to live. and that my ex
remember
wanted, oh yeah, and that
I
my ex
remember that.
wanted to get back with me. And all I had to do was divorce my current wife, and then I would be able to help be like an executor of this $1 million life insurance policy that they had for their child together. And,
Yeah.
and it was just off.
What?
Oh,
It
yeah.
is bizarro
Like,
land.
hey, I destroyed your life, uprooted everything that you thought we had, and I'm gonna mess up our children. But by God, we're gonna get back together for money.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was weird. And so then, and I told her no, because why would I want to get remarried to a person who is now verbally abusive to me, emotionally abusive to myself and our kids? By this time, she was now starting to, spank the kids with a wooden spoon, make them go out and dig weeds with, a little spoon in the yard. And she had never done stuff like that before. And it was off, and then she starts to sext me on the phone. Yeah. And she even had him in the background in some of the photos, like he was approving of what she was doing.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Was she on drugs?
We're getting to all
This
of
is mild
I'm like,
to what's coming.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is mild.
Yeah, this is the mild parts.
Mhm.
And and about this time, as I'm talking to coworkers, it was almost like a running joke, because at this time I'm explaining people to my life, and it was like if I had explained some of these things that were happening in my life, and we had like a sitcom, like one of those reality TV shows, nobody would believe that all this stuff had happened. And
How Tom kept it together is amazing because of the amount of stress that he was under during all of this stuff and his children. Yeah. It only gets worse from here.
Oh, yeah. And so at about this time, my oldest daughter, who was 16 at the time, didn't want to visit her mom anymore. I spoke with my lawyer and found out I didn't have to send her because what happens is that, by the time that you would basically get ready to go to trial, the child is basically 18 and it's a moot point. And so, but the reason why I supported my daughter in not, going to see her mom is because of the spanking with a wooden spoon. My ex and her husband were going through and destroying their things. Like she was popping the keys off of my daughter's, computer when she went to go visit. She was making her wear spaghetti strap, tops and things like that she didn't like. Her husband was making the kids take his shoes off when he got off of work, and massaging his feet. And then, my ex was inappropriately touching herself, and whatnot like that, in front of the children, for her, for her husband.
Tom, how are you not in jail?
I know.
Because, oh man, my blood is boiling for you. Because,
And, and then her husband was asking the kids to call him Big Daddy. So you can kind of see where some of this is starting to lead.
Yeah.
And so what was happening now is that, they started to emphasize or focus their attention on my second daughter because my first daughter didn't want to go visit them anymore. And so the alienation increased with my second daughter to the point to where my daughter burned all of her bridges at home. She basically stopped with all of her friends, and burned all those bridges. She started failing. She was my best student in the family, and she started failing all of her classes. She wouldn't want to go and participate at church anymore, and she was arguing and whatnot at home. And then, and I knew that my home was better, than what she was getting, with them, because what they were doing was tempting her with promises like, they would teach her to drive. She would get a car. She could get a cell phone,
The weekend Santa Claus.
Right. And they promised all of those things. They were telling her on the phone, maybe it's time for you to just cut ties, and things like that, the alienation kind of stuff. And, but it got to the point to where I knew she wasn't going to learn or, benefit from any of the things that I was shielding her from at home any longer. And so I relented and allowed her to go live with her mom. And if I had a magic 8-ball at the time that would have told me the future, I would have not agreed, and I would have kept her and gone through all the pain and suffering, knowing to shield her from what basically happened next. Because
But I can understand where you were coming from at that point. When you're doing everything that you can to help your child be on the straight path and do good and all that, and especially when you have another parent that's helping cause all these issues, you get to that point of like, what else can I do here other than show you that, hey, the grass is not greener on the other side?
Right. And I mean, they were even giving my kids anti-church literature, all kinds of stuff. It was just not good. And so, and so after she left, there were some ebbs and flows, there were fewer visitation requests, but no allowance for me to visit my own daughter, after she left. She eventually cut off even phone calls to me, and I was sending her letters, and birthday cards and Christmas money and stuff like that, but I wouldn't hardly get any replies back from her. And, during one of them, there was like this whole insurance incident where they were trying to get her, covered by dental insurance. And it was just all of this sob stories and my fault and stuff. And I'm telling them, this is how the insurance works. And it's not my fault. This is the way it works. It's insurance. And, and so, and then I find out during all of this that my daughter, after she went to go, live with them, it kind of confirmed my suspicion of why they wanted my daughter, which was she dropped out of school and basically was taking care of her half brother. And she never learned how to drive a car. She never got the car. She never got the cell phone. She never got, any of it. And, and they basically wanted a cheap babysitter. I felt for her, because, her half brother didn't speak. They thought that he was autistic, and they didn't, and so she ended up getting a GED by herself, in order to complete her high school. And then, I should kind of take a break here, and kind of explain what I'm doing kind of, with all of this stuff, because I journal a lot. And while I do it for my own personal benefit, at this juncture, I'm also doing it just in case, because I'm seeing the signs. And I felt I needed to protect myself from these highly manipulative people. And I knew that I might need this, for evidence, whether it was in a custody battle, whether they tried to sue me, because sometimes when life was going bad, they would threaten me that they were going to sue me and take more money. At other times, they would kind of give me the sob story because they were kind of in bad straits, and whatnot. And so it was just all over the place. And I could tell that they were manipulative, because the guy a year later was still alive. And and he's still alive to this day.
The guy only had months to live.
Like, dang, dude, I thought you only had months. Where's like?
I know.
Oh, I hate people.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this, I did suffer from some of the effects. I mean, I was stress eating at the time. I got up to almost 200 pounds, and which isn't a whole lot for today's standards, but still, it was a lot for me. And and so I ended up going on, reigniting my workout regimen again to work off the stress and whatnot like that. So, during other ebbs and flows, I would receive a call from my daughter and, how she had issues and multiple health. You have to understand that almost all of my children ended up having multiple mental health diagnoses. And so, I'm having issues at the time as well, because when I'm not having problems with my ex or my daughter, it was a son or, my current wife at the time, because she wasn't coping well either, with a lot of these stressors. And I'm glossing over a lot of this stuff because that's like a whole nother podcast for each one. And so, I felt surrounded by, problems. By the time I was finally solving one problem or getting over it and healing, another problem would come or a child and just take its place. It was just consuming at the time. And, and I felt like I was just kind of surrounded by, the abuse. And so, they ended up moving to Aurora, Colorado, and so that she could take a TSA job, because that's where the TSA training center is over in Denver. And then basically, and here's where the other half of the story kind of comes. Basically, the unthinkable happened. Becky and Brandon, which is their names, basically called me up and told me that our daughter that was living with them had gone missing. And I was frankly in shock. I didn't know what to do, and basically she ran away. And the good news is that they found her later that day. But, she was living with friends. And the bad news was that she, didn't have a phone or whatever, and that they couldn't, contact her, and all they had was a work phone number. So they were trying to get me to call her. And, and so I did, and finally spoke with her manager and gave him, my contact number. And this is basically where the really crazy stories start. I mean, if these stories were kind of odd before, they really start to get out there now. Because basically Becky and Brandon told me that our daughter was mentally unstable, that she stole things, from a store in Idaho and was under probation, and that she stole, from them. And that they asked for, her contact information from me if I got it, so that they could basically come and pick her up and institutionalize her in order to get her the help she needed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is starting to throw me up red flags, because, that's not, that's she should have already been institutionalized if she needed that level of care.
Mm-hmm.
So then my daughter, contacts me on her new phone number and told me, basically why she left home. And this is where it gets sad. She was basically being physically abused by both Becky and Brandon, mainly Brandon.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was asking for photos from her throughout each day, and she gave them for fear of being beaten. She was not, that she was also, they also told me that she was sold with her manager at her job. She was, stealing people's credit cards numbers from people at work, and that she, and so she didn't. So I finally found out that, she was, but she didn't steal people's credit cards. She did steal, but she was actually told to steal at the behest of her mom and her stepdad. but she wasn't on probation for it. They were making her sign applications for credit cards in her name and then going and using them themselves. They were making her sign up for cell phones that she didn't even have access to and that they were using.
I can't, it's so mind blowing that this is her mother.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Like, oh. Mm.
And so, yeah. She had already and then the crazy part or not crazy, but, and then she tells me that she had already contacted the police, regarding the abuse, and that this was kind of a planned thing, with her and her friends to escape, and that she had basically stayed up all night while they were asleep and then snuck out of the house with, the clothes and her computer and her cell phone and whatnot like that, and basically turned over the cell phone, the computer, and the clothes, some of her clothes, because it was all evident, because it had the man's bodily
smart
fluids
girl.
on them.
Very smart. How old was she at
Very
this time?
smart girl.
This was now 19. It started when she was, under 18. And so, so then, I asked her if she wanted to come home or if she needed money. She said no. Becky and Brandon warned me that, not to give her money because she was going to ruin me and steal my credit card and, and ruin me financially. And I asked her if she needed, anything else. She told her she could come home. She said, no, I think I have some good friends here and I want to stay. And she'd already started the investigation and she needed to be there for it to a degree. But she told me that, she wasn't, of course, involved with her manager. She wasn't a lesbian. Heck, they even, and after this, start getting calls from Becky and Brandon with more stuff saying that, they accused her of stealing the cat and that she was selling the cat and that they had called, of all places, they made a case against her and called up the animal protection people trying to get animal protection to, get her in trouble. They then tell me that Brandon was disabled and that by my daughter having him, that she was going to go to jail for having, abused a disabled person.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And by this time I'm siding with my daughter because you don't have a mountain of physical evidence like that if there isn't an issue. And, and
I mean, really, seriously, what teenager is going to hand over their computer to cops willingly?
Or
if
cell
there
phones or
wasn't-
anything.
And cell phones and clothing and everything
Yeah.
else, if there wasn't, like you said, a mountain of evidence to go, here's my case.
Yeah.
This is what
Like, I'm done.
doing to me for years.
Oh, yeah.
And no
And-
kid, I mean, if it was a good home, whatever, and she was the problem, no kid's just going to take certain items and run in the middle of the night.
No. And even then, after she ran, again, smart girl, she went straight to the hospital and they did, the SA kit and on her, and they took pictures and everything because,
Good girl.
he branded both my ex and my daughter with his name.
Oh my God.
He had referred to my daughter as his spiritual wife and my ex as his wife.
I did not know about that.
Yeah. And then I find out that Becky and Brandon were physically abusing each other. They're not healthy people.
Yeah.
And yeah. I found out that when she called up and was sobbing at me about the whole dental thing, I found that was just an act and that she played along so that she wouldn't get beat. You know,
I mean, she was in self-preservation mode. That's
survival.
You can't ever fault you. Yeah, you can't ever fault.
Yeah,
the victim
No.
of such violence.
Yeah, they
For
were
what they're
intercepting all of my letters, you know, and my cards, and taking everything from her. She barely had anything. You know, and I told her I would have, if I had known anything sooner, I would have rushed. I would have dropped everything and come and gotten her. You know, and just to give you a taste of how off this really was, when I was speaking with the investigator with the Aurora police, they were saying that this was one of the top 10 weirdest cases that he had ever investigated in the department. And that's giving you an idea of, you know, this is Denver. That's a lot of people. Right. And for
There's
them,
a lot of people there.
For this to be one of the top 10 weirdest cases, that's saying a lot. I mean, it wasn't just me that they were giving the stories to. They were giving the stories to everyone, including the police. And so, yeah, it was crazy. I should mention that by this time, it was now 3 weeks after she left, and I'd had more calls and time with her on the phone than I'd had in 3 weeks than I'd had in 3 years. And so for me, this was, you know, touching, you know, because I figured I had my daughter, and whatnot. And it was good that she was back in my life, but I was so sad about what she had to go through.
Right.
And so now, by this time, the investigation is full-fledged, and it's, and so Becky and Brandon are now, for fear, of going to jail. And so now they're issuing threats and things like that to deflect, everything from them. And so she sent letters to the state accusing me of abusing her and our children while we were married, which was untrue. And when that didn't work, meaning I wasn't investigated by the police, they then sent letters to my church with this same sort of accusations. And then I'm being called in by my church leaders in order to basically, refute some of these accusations. And to give you an idea of some of these accusations, they were things like, I brought a gun into the bedroom, that I had branded her, that I had, abused her and the children, and
so
beat
to
them.
be clear, Tom, you branded her with another dude's name. Yeah.
That's because it was only first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was rough, and, and, it was hard. And, because at this time, and I'm informing my daughter's legal counsel, the prosecutor, because by this time, it's now witness tampering. They're basically witness tampering with me by trying to intimidate me from coming in, because they know that I'm going to testify.
Right.
And so it was just bad. I mean, and they, at this juncture, she had a do not contact order with children, because this was that standard procedure, because this started as a minor. And so that means that they automatically go through all of that.
Where's their son at this point?
I'm getting to that point. At
Okay.
this juncture, they're getting the husband left because they hadn't made the formal arrests yet. So she's still working TSA with her son while he leaves and comes to Idaho. Then they issue the formal arrest orders. he gets picked up under extradition in Idaho here. They also, a couple months later, pick her up. And then they put the child under protective custody of one of her sisters.
Okay.
And, and she gets do not contact order with children, a restraining order, and ankle bracelets to make sure they don't flee. And the whole 9 yards. I mean, it was a big deal.
Wait, they let him out?
On bail with the ankle bracelet.
So they
Wow.
tracked him down to Idaho, brought him back.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I
So
think I was
how
still
long-
reeling about something else when you said that. Okay.
So how long, Tom, from the time that your daughter escaped the situation, and that's, I'm going to call it what it is, she is lucky and she
Yep.
escaped and she survived it, before he was arrested?
I would say a good 6 to 9 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they had to filter through all of his stories and her stories and all of this stuff that's going on. And so they issue the that stuff, and then comes the legal process, which takes the next 2.5, 3 years. So by the time it finally, because they wouldn't accept plea deals, they maintained their innocence through the entire process. And then on top of that, their public defender changed 3 or 4 times, and which then gets continuances to extend, for the next guy to get spun up and whatnot like that. And they're short on public defenders and prosecutors at this time. Heck, it even
And plus it's Denver. So, I mean, if we look at Denver, it's a huge area.
Yeah.
That, it's not going to be a court system like here in Idaho where, it doesn't take long for things to kind of happen here.
Yeah. And even then I found out from the prosecutor that this was something so important that they felt they needed. It was so bad that they needed to go to trial with this and not just wish it away. Even though they were offering these plea deals, because they weren't accepting them. And so they felt that, justice needed to be served. And so, basically last year at about this time of the year was when the trial happened. And I ended up going because I'm a witness. My mom, my daughter's, grandmother came to provide, moral support, for her granddaughter. And, and so, and then I, when she was there and testifying, I found out the real reason why they prosecuted her mother. I thought that it was because, when they branded her, Becky was in the room, and that she was just an accomplice or, an accessory or something like that. No,
She knew the abuse was going on. And so at that point, you're an accessory to the crime.
That's what I thought. No, the real reason why they brought her to trial is because she participated. She was involved with incest with her own daughter, which is rare.
Yeah, that is rare for a mother.
Oh, your poor daughter. Like,
right.
She's a tough kid. She's a survivor. I know.
Yeah. And so, which is horrible. And, and I was called to testify that I didn't brand my name on my ex. And
your name was, wait a minute. Your name was on your ex or his name?
He accused me of putting my name on her.
Oh, he did that to her to make it look like you did it.
He branded, according to my daughter, he branded her with his name. It was only like a few letters each on each person, but it wasn't like his whole Brandon. It was BR, whatever. But because it was similar beginning as mine, they were trying to deflect and accusing me of it, which is untrue. I didn't brand people.
Right. I know. Right.
And so, she's blubbering, of course, while I'm testifying, and he's got his back to me, and during the exit brief, I found out, that that this was one of the top 10 weirdest cases for the prosecutor too, which is again saying a lot. I mean, these people see
some horrible
Crazy.
stuff.
Yeah,
That,
crazy stuff. And this was craziness, even for them. And, both Becky and Brandon both testified, which is also unusual in these cases.
Really?
yeah.
Because
I can't
it's
believe
not
their
always
lawyer.
against the abusers. And so, again, they both maintained their innocence. They didn't do anything. And yet the prosecutors just brought the mountain of evidence because they had all the sexting photos. They had all the branding, the bruises, the essay kit, the everything, against them. And what are you going to believe? Somebody's word or the mountain of physical evidence?
Yeah, there was a lot of physical evidence in this case
that was brought against them. And so, because it was on the clothes, they couldn't charge her. They couldn't charge either of them for the credit cards and the phones because that was considered a family matter because she signed it. Which I
don't.
Which that I don't agree with either because she did it under distress. It's not like, I don't agree with that.
And so my daughter had to pay off all of these credit card debts, and whatnot. So now we're getting towards the end of the story. Justice was served. We found out a month later that yes, the jury found them guilty on every single count that the prosecutors brought. They were both guilty. And then that was a week later, when we found out the end of their deliberations, because we weren't there for the next 3 or 4 days of all of the mountain of evidence that, the prosecutors brought in with the police and the expert witnesses and so forth. And so a month later at their sentencing, I found out that Becky was sentenced with 4 years to life with her involvement. And so
seems too low.
Wait, 4 years
to life?
That's the minimum she has to
minimum
spend
is 4 years.
Correct.
Yeah, but she's going to screw up in prison.
Well, here's the catch. With mandatory treatment in jail. So she has to complete a mandatory, I don't know what you want to call it, sexual offender, course.
Yeah.
And one of the basic premises of it is you have to admit to the crime.
And to this day, she still hasn't admitted to it?
I have no idea. Because also part of the program is mandatory polygraphs. So they know you're telling the truth and not blowing smoke up.
Wow. Good for them to do that. Because how many people just lie?
Yeah.
Good for them.
And so they were telling me in the exit brief a month later, when they're telling me this, the average time frame it takes for people to actually get out on this type of sentence is 7 years. That's the average it takes for somebody to actually get to the point where they're deemed safe to re-enter society.
She should never be back in society.
The longest
I really hope they do not have her PC'd up.
Yeah. And so the longest
really
people lasted in there before they finally completed the program was 21 years.
Yeah.
So Brandon,
hopefully there's like a forever no contact order with your kids.
Yeah, she'll have a permanent do not contact order with any children for the rest of her life. She'll be on the sex offender
list and everything
for the rest of her life.
Okay.
And and then I find out from the prosecutor as well that Brandon, he was given 3 consecutive 25-year to life sentences.
Consecutive.
He'll never see the light of day again.
No,
Nope.
he won't be coming out.
And he was the bounty hunter.
Yes.
He's
I
gonna have a rough
really
time in
hope
prison.
those boys up there are
Mhm.
having a good old time with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't like
No.
child offenders ever
No.
inside.
And they don't like bounty hunters either.
No. That's about as bad as being a cop and going to prison. Like,
I'm kind of
yeah.
shocked at how low her sentence
Me
is.
too.
I think
Because
it was
she was
because
a equal participant in this.
yeah, I think it was because she was playing the again also abused card.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I have.
Because they were- Yeah, abusing each
It
other.
is so bizarro to me that you can go from a meek, mild, church-going woman, the girl you married,
Yeah.
to this monster, spun-up monster in a year, and then take it to this level of extreme depravity. It's like, how does that happen? Where
I don't know.
did she have like
Were
some
they
weird,
on
like,
drugs?
break? Yeah, that's
No. He all he did was drink. So I found out that when they had my daughter call me, for that dental thing, he just came up with it while he was drunk that day and had them call me up, make accusations, and try and extract stuff from me because they were trying to get me to pay money.
Wow.
I
Well,
mean, and you have
Tom,
to
I'm
also
telling you,
understand that my daughter's stuff went missing while she was with them. They
Yeah.
hawked it at the pawn shop, and she never saw it. I had, a painting that I made for her. They destroyed it. A handmade quilt from her grandmother. They destroyed that.
Ugh.
This poor girl.
She came
The
out of it with nothing.
vileness
Yeah.
is just.
But
And then-
she's going to school, right? And working and
Yeah. She's going in for medical coding.
yeah.
Right on.
So she's putting the pieces of her life back together, and
Yeah.
that's how I want to end this is
And she's still
That-
seeing therapy.
yeah. she-
I was just going to ask that. Did she get
Yeah.
into therapy?
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And-
her half brother, not to kind of push time a little bit, but her half brother, come to find out he wasn't autistic. He talks just fine. He didn't talk because he felt unsafe. It was a defense mechanism.
Were they abusing him as well?
Yeah,
I don't know, but I think that he was seeing the abusive environment that he was in and decided to shield himself by becoming unresponsive.
But
Fight or
now
flight.
he's living with her sister who had nothing to do with her when she was going. Yep. So he's in a loving home and loving environment.
Yeah.
And does your daughter still see her half brother?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I
Do you
mean,
think it's too much of a
Probably.
just that connection that it's,
I don't know.
maybe someday they will, right?
I mean,
I think that's what she
that's a
wants.
lot. That's a lot to bear as such a young child. I mean, and I grew
Yeah.
up in a very drug abusive, chaotic home, and it just breaks my heart, Tom. It truly does, because I'm so glad that she's thriving though, and she didn't turn to drugs or anything else like most people do when you go through those type of situations.
She's a sweet girl. I know her, and she's a very sweet young lady, and things have been hard, but she's got a bright future. So
Yeah. I mean, these experiences aren't something that I would wish on my worst enemy.
no, and you had to tone it down a lot for YouTube. You had to tone it down a lot.
Oh yeah.
Trust, when he says
And
that
that
it
just
was-
like it even breaks my heart even more, because
Mhm.
as a mom, you are supposed to protect your children and to
Yeah.
be the abuser.
yeah, that's mind blowing to me. It's absolutely mind blowing.
Mm.
So this was a really heavy case, and thank you for sharing it. I think it's somewhat cathartic for you to get this out there.
Yeah.
You've been holding this back for a very long time, and I appreciate that you came on here, and we wish your daughter and the rest of your family nothing but happiness and
Yes.
Yeah.
for the rest of their lives. They've been through enough, and all of your kids have been through enough. with this whole situation. So, and you, my friend, watching you go through this for the last, I don't know how long we'd known each other, 15 years. It's been tough watching him coming in every day and then sitting down and chatting with you and you telling me what's going on. And I'm just like, your heart is breaking, but you can't do anything to fix it, you know? And, so it's over.
Yes.
And you move forward and your boys seem so happy now.
Yeah.
And your daughters are moving forward with their life and you're breathing again, my friend. So, and you're smiling again, which I hadn't seen in a very, very long time. So, yep. Love you a lot. And to our audience out there, thanks for sticking with us. And yeah.
And the justice system does work. It's just
once in a while, right?
Once in a while, it the people that deserve it definitely get it, and that I can be happy about. Because
you bet.
And I really hope they don't have her PC'd up, because I'll tell you, to be a woman of an abuser of a child, and especially your own child, she will have a very, very rough time in there.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to make parole as early as she's that 4-year mark. I don't see it. I don't know if she'll ever admit it.
She'll never get out.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be
I'm
interesting.
Expecting the average.
Yeah. Which is too short a time. And yeah. But anyway, thanks for hanging in there with us on this case. And we'll be back next week with another true crime. We appreciate each one of you that are listening. Please like and subscribe and share the show with your friends. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.